Here's the problem with being a Sigma. You're smarter and more capable than the average guy. You adapt fast, solve problems on your own, and rarely need help. But that same independence can trick you into missing the lessons that matter most, until life forces them on you the hard way. You've probably picked up wisdom through experience, some of it more painful than necessary. The real kick in the gut comes when you realize that certain lessons could have saved you years of struggle if you just understood them sooner. We're not talking about minor setbacks here. These are the kind of realizations that make you question decisions you made a decade ago. If you're a young Sigma, you can't afford to ignore this. Every year you delay, the cost grows higher. Here are 7 valuable lessons some Sigma males learn too late in life. 1. You get what you accept, not what you deserve. The world doesn't operate on a fairness system. You can be the hardest worker in the room and still watch someone else get promoted. You can be the most loyal friend and still get abandoned when you need support. That frustration you feel is trying to tell you something important. Most people assume good behavior eventually gets rewarded. They believe if they just keep being excellent, fair, and dedicated, the universe will balance things out. They wait for people to recognize their value and treat them accordingly. Here's what hits Sigma males too late. You don't receive what you deserve. You receive what you're willing to accept as normal. The moment you tolerate disrespect, underpayment, or one-sided effort, you've set a new baseline for how people will treat you moving forward. They're not going to suddenly decide to treat you better when you haven't shown them that worse treatment has consequences. The dangerous part is that Sigma males often have high tolerance for difficult situations. You can handle being underpaid, overworked, or underappreciated without complaining, so you do. But high tolerance for bad treatment doesn't make you strong. It makes you someone people can exploit without pushback. Standards aren't something you think about having. They're boundaries you actively enforce through your choices. Walking away from situations that don't meet your minimum requirements is how you teach the world what you will and won't accept. Most Sigma males realize this after spending years in jobs, friendships, and relationships that should have ended the first time their boundaries were crossed. By then, they've normalized treatment that never should have been acceptable in the first place. 2. Stop giving energy to people who drain you. Have you ever felt completely exhausted after spending time with certain people, even when you didn't actually do anything physically tiring? That heavy, drained feeling that makes you want to be alone for hours afterward, but you can't quite explain why it happened or where your energy went. Most people ignore this feeling or convince themselves they're just tired from their day. They keep showing up for people who leave them feeling empty because they think being a good person means being endlessly available to anyone who needs them. Here's the real danger most Sigma males might not see coming. When you pride yourself on being self-sufficient and capable of handling anything, you can easily convince yourself that feeling drained is just a weakness you need to push through. You tell yourself that needing space from someone means you're not strong enough, so you keep giving energy to people who never give it back. While you're doing this, you're not just tired. You're actively stealing time and energy from the things and people that actually deserve your investment. What's happening on a psychological level is that Sigma males often process relationships through a lens of capability rather than reciprocity. Your brain focuses on whether you can handle the burden, not whether you should be carrying it in the first place. This creates a dangerous blind spot where you measure your worth by how much you can endure rather than by the quality of connections you're building. Years pass before Sigma males realize all that energy they gave to people who only took was energy that could have built something meaningful. Every hour spent listening to endless complaints about problems they refused to solve was an hour stolen from your own growth, your own goals, your own peace. 3. Protecting your peace is more important than winning every battle. Being right feels incredible, especially when you can prove it with facts and logic. Someone challenges you, spreads misinformation about you, or starts unnecessary conflict, and your first instinct is to engage and correct them. You know you can win this argument. But here's what most Sigma males don't see coming. Every time you engage in a fight just to prove a point, you're giving someone control over your emotional state and your time. They threw out bait and you took it, which means they decided what you'd be thinking about for the next few hours or days. The trap is believing that letting things slide equals weakness, or that leaving false statements uncorrected is somehow dishonest. Sigma males often think that truth matters most and that defending themselves against unfair criticism is necessary. They engage every fight they could win. What hits too late is understanding that your peace of mind is worth more than being right. Some people will never understand your perspective no matter how clearly you explain it. Some battles give you nothing but stress and wasted time, even when you win them completely. Most Sigma males spend years fighting over things that had no real impact on their life, proving points to people who weren't listening, defending themselves against critics who were never going to be satisfied anyway. By the time they learn to walk away from fights that don't actually matter, they've already let countless people control their mood and attention just by starting arguments. 4. Chasing approval always ends in disappointment. There's probably someone in your life whose opinion weighs more than everyone else's combined. Maybe it's a parent who never quite said they were proud of you, a mentor whose standards keep moving further away the closer you get, or someone you're trying to prove yourself worthy of. You tell yourself you're just trying to improve, but really you're stuck in a loop you can't seem to break. Most Sigma males pride themselves on not caring what society thinks, and they're right about that part. Mass opinion doesn't move them. But that independence can hide a blind spot. They're sometimes working twice as hard to impress one specific person than they ever work on their own goals. They'll reject every social expectation while destroying themselves trying to meet impossible standards set by someone who keeps raising the bar. Now, this is different from working with someone who pushes you to be better or setting higher standards for yourself in your career. That's growth. What we're talking about is chasing approval from someone who never seems satisfied, no matter what you achieve. People who genuinely want you to succeed give feedback that helps you improve. People who just want you chasing their approval move the finish line every time you reach it. Here's what takes years to see clearly. Approval you have to constantly chase isn't actually approval at all. When someone keeps moving the goalposts, they're not helping you grow. They're feeding their own ego by watching you pursue something they never intended to give. Most Sigma males waste years in this pursuit before realizing the approval they wanted either wasn't worth having or was never going to come regardless of what they accomplished. 5. Isolation heals, but don't stay there forever. When people drain you or life gets overwhelming, disappearing for a while makes perfect sense. You need space to think clearly, recharge your energy, and process situations without everyone's opinions clouding your judgment. That break from the noise feels like exactly what you needed. There's genuine healing that happens when you step back from chaos. You handle your problems at your own pace, rebuild your mental energy, and get perspective on situations that felt impossible when you were stuck in them. Alone time gives you room to be yourself without performing for anyone or managing their emotions. But here's the danger Sigma males need to watch for. Temporary healing can quietly turn into permanent withdrawal. What started as a healthy break becomes your default setting. Months turn into years, and you realize you've built a life that's completely self-contained. You've gotten so comfortable being alone that reaching out to people starts feeling unnecessary or even exhausting. When you're naturally good at being alone, your brain starts treating isolation as the solution to every problem instead of just one tool among many. You stop distinguishing between toxic people you needed space from and genuine connections worth maintaining. Everything gets filed under social interaction equals energy drain, even when some people actually add value to your life. Connection isn't weakness, and needing people doesn't make you dependent. Humans are wired for relationships even when they're capable of surviving alone. Isolation should help you heal so you can engage with the world again, not become a permanent escape from it. Most Sigma males realize too late they've isolated for so long that rebuilding connections feels harder than it actually is. They're independent and capable, but also lonely in ways they didn't see coming, and fixing that requires effort they're no longer used to giving. 6. Some people miss the old you, not you. People from your past will pop up after months or even years of silence. They'll say, "I've been thinking about you," or "we should catch up." And at first, it feels good. Finally, someone noticed you've been gone. But here's the catch. They're not really interested in your current life, your goals, or who you've become. They're chasing a version of you that no longer exists. And for Sigma males, this is a painful trap. The old you was more available, more willing to sacrifice, more tolerant of one-sided relationships. That's the version they miss, not the real you standing here now. Real connections survive growth. People who genuinely care will value who you're becoming, not try to drag you back into old patterns. But many Sigmas only realize this after wasting energy on people who never missed them, only their usefulness. 7. Talk to people, not about them. When someone crosses a line, you face a choice. Speak directly or let it slide and vent elsewhere. Avoiding the conversation feels safer, but the problem doesn't disappear. It festers. You carry resentment while the other person stays unaware, and if you talk to others, you spread a version of events that was never given a chance to be corrected. Direct conversation is uncomfortable. There's risk they'll get defensive, or that honesty might strain the relationship. But silence guarantees nothing changes, and over time, unspoken tension quietly destroys the bond. Many Sigma males learn too late that one hard talk early on could have saved years of resentment. By avoiding confrontation, they allowed small issues to snowball into relationship-ending divides. Speaking up isn't about conflict. It's about respect. Addressing problems directly might be tough, but it's the only path that prevents regret later.